Black cleaning lady hid her identity as a fighter pilot for 8 years. Then they forced her into the cockpit. "Let's give our beloved cleaning lady a lesson in humility," announced Captain Bradley Thompson, his voice echoing through the Riverside Air Force Base hangar as he pointed directly at Kesha Williams. "How about we show her what it's like to sit in the seat of real pilots?" The cruel laughter of the other officers filled the cold morning air as Kesha stood motionless, gripping the broomstick tightly, her brown eyes fixed on the concrete floor she had been cleaning for 8 long years. At 42, she had perfected the art of invisibility, head down, movements discreet, never confronting authority. Thompson, the typical privileged officer, produced in abundance. By the military base, the son of a senator who had graduated from Harvard, through family connections and never faced a situation where his arrogance was not protected by political influence, shouted, "I said you," walking toward her in his polished military boots. "The black cleaning lady. You know what your problem is? You people think you can do anything because of this diversity crap nowadays." For a moment, Kesha closed her eyes and allowed herself to remember the sound of F-22 Raptor turbines at combat altitude. The feeling of being completely in control of a machine that cost $150 million before everything fell apart, before the conspiracy, before her identity was erased forever. Kesha looked up slowly. For a brief moment, something dangerous flashed in her eyes, a spark Thompson interpreted as fear, but which was actually much more complex. "Sir, I need to finish cleaning the north sector," she replied calmly, her voice betraying no emotion. The same response she had given for years whenever someone tried to provoke her. "Cleaning can wait," Thompson smiled maliciously. "What can't wait is the education you're about to receive. Jaime, bring the flight gear for our pilot here." Lieutenant Jaime Foster, son of a general and Thompson's protege, rushed to fetch a used flight suit and a scratched helmet. The prank had been planned the night before in the officer's bar. Put the black cleaning lady in an F-16 fighter jet and film her inevitable humiliation. "Listen here, Kesha," Thompson pronounced her name with deliberate disdain. "You're going to get in that cockpit. You're going to pretend you know what you're doing, and we're going to have a good laugh. Consider it part of your professional development." Foster held the cell phone already imagining the millions of views. "This is going to go viral faster than that cat pilot meme. Cleaning lady tries to be Top Gun. People are going to love it." Kesha accepted the equipment without protest. As she donned the jumpsuit, her hands moved with a precision that no one noticed, fingers that automatically adjusted straps and equipment with suspicious familiarity, like riding a bike. The body never forgets. Thompson gestured grandly to the small crowd that had gathered. "Ladies and gentlemen, witness the moment when our esteemed cleaning lady learns about boundaries and appropriate places." Kesha walked toward the F-16 with measured steps. The aircraft was prepared for a routine flight, fully fueled and with operating systems. As she climbed the ladder, a memory flashed through her mind, her last flight before it all ended when she was still Captain Kesha Phoenix Williams. "I hope you don't throw up in my plane," Thompson shouted from below. "That F-16 is worth more than your entire family will earn in 10 lifetimes. But as Kesha settled into the pilot's seat, something extraordinary happened. The cockpit embraced her like a familiar glove. Her hands found the controls with surgical precision. Her eyes scanned the instruments with professional speed. And for one almost imperceptible moment, she forgot where she was. The transformation was subtle but unmistakable. Her shoulders straightened, her breathing became controlled, and something in the atmosphere changed completely. Thompson noticed the change and frowned. "Hey, what are you doing up there?" "Don't touch anything." Kesha took a deep breath, her hands hovering over the controls like a pianist facing a piano after years of forced silence. For 8 years, she had kept her secret buried, living as a shadow of her former self. But something in this man's cruel arrogance sparked a decision she had been putting off for a long time. Her fingers found the ignition sequence. A simple choice separated her from a lifetime of silent humiliation, or a moment that would change everything forever. The question wasn't whether she knew how to drive. The question was whether she was willing to show the world who she really was. In the makeshift audience, some of the older mechanics began to notice details the officers overlooked. The way she automatically adjusted the mirrors, how her feet found the pedals without hesitation, how her hands moved across the controls with a familiarity impossible for a cleaning lady. If you're enjoying this story of courage and overcoming adversity, be sure to subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple lesson in humility turned into the biggest revelation that military base had ever witnessed, the announcement said. Because what Thompson didn't know was that she was about to awaken a ghost the Air Force had tried to bury forever. The roar of the F-16's engines echoed through the hangar with such precision that several mechanics stopped working and looked up in surprise. Kesha had executed the ignition sequence with the speed and smoothness of someone who had done it thousands of times, not like a nervous cleaning lady trying to fake competence. "Wait a minute," Thompson shouted as his initial confidence began to waver. "How did she know how to do that without instructions?" Foster continued filming, but something in his expression changed. "Man, she didn't even hesitate. Look how she's sitting in there. She looks like she was born in that cockpit." Through the cockpit glass, Kesha checked instruments with fluid, automatic movements, her fingers dancing across the controls like a pianist playing a familiar song, each gesture revealing years of experience that no cleaning lady should possess. Thompson felt a chill of unease, but his ego wouldn't allow him to admit he was wrong. "It's just beginner's luck. Any idiot can start an engine if he presses enough buttons. Let's see if she can do anything else." He picked up the radio from the control tower. "Davis, you've had enough fun. Turn everything off and get down from there before you cause any damage." The response came back clear and... "Tower, this is Griffin 07, requesting clearance to taxi." Kesha's professional voice came over the communication system, and the silence that followed was deafening. She had used standard aviation communication procedures with terminology that took years to master. "What the hell?" Thompson muttered, his face turning pale. She shouldn't know radio protocols. But Kesha knew much more than that. 8 years ago, she had been Captain Kesha Phoenix Williams, the first black woman to command an elite Air Force squadron, Phoenix, the nickname she earned for her uncanny ability to emerge victorious from impossible situations. Everything had changed during a reconnaissance mission over hostile territory in the Middle East, when her team discovered evidence of an American general selling weapons to terrorist groups. General Morrison, the father-in-law of then-Colonel Thompson, the father of the captain who was now humiliating her. When Kesha reported the discovery, she found herself at the center of a deadly conspiracy. Documents were forged, witnesses were bought, and the national heroine became the scapegoat, accused of leaking classified information to the enemy, the very crime she had tried to expose. "She's moving the plane!" someone shouted. Thompson ran toward the runway, yelling into his radio, "Davis, stop immediately! You are not authorized to move that aircraft!" But Kesha was already taxiing with pinpoint precision, maintaining constant speed and perfect alignment, techniques that demonstrated not just knowledge, but absolute mastery. "Call base security!" Thompson barked at Foster. "This is military aircraft theft. She's going to be arrested for this!" Foster hesitated, camera still rolling. "Thompson, did you see how she did that? That wasn't luck. She knows exactly what she's doing." "She's a damn cleaning lady!" Thompson exploded, his mask of superiority finally cracking. "She probably watched a few YouTube videos and thinks she can fly a fighter jet." But deep down, a terrible suspicion was forming. That competence, that familiarity with procedures, the way she had always seemed quietly aware, it was impossible to ignore. The F-16 now stood at the head of the main runway, engines roaring, fully alive. Kesha followed pre-flight protocols with such precision that even veteran mechanics were stunned. "My God," one whispered, "I've seen that precision before, years ago. They called her Phoenix." Thompson grabbed him by the arm. "What are you saying?" "Nothing, sir. Just that she flew like the plane was part of her." "Phoenix is dead," Thompson snapped quickly, though his voice betrayed more knowledge than it should have. He couldn't tear his eyes from the cockpit. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear. Fear that his actions might finally have consequences. On the runway, Kesha finished her final checks as Thompson shouted contradictory orders through the control tower. Each desperate command revealed how little control he had left. The man who had mocked her minutes earlier now faced the truth. He had underestimated his victim. Kesha remembered every insult, every cruel laugh, every moment of humiliation from the past 8 years, not to feed revenge, but to focus her resolve. What Thompson didn't know was that Phoenix Williams hadn't just been hiding, she had been preparing. And today, in front of cameras and witnesses, she would show that some phoenixes don't die. They rise from the ashes stronger than ever. Control Tower, this is Griffin 07 requesting clearance for takeoff. Her calm, professional voice echoed over the radios, silencing the entire base. Thompson snatched the radio from the chief controller. Davis, I ordered you to shut down the engines. This is military insubordination. Negative, sir, Kesha replied coolly. Flight clearance has been granted for training procedures in accordance with Military Regulation Section 12.3. The cold precision in her tone made several veterans exchange nervous glances. She knows the regulations better than we do, Foster whispered. How does a cleaning lady know that? Shut up and keep recording, Thompson hissed, sweat running down his forehead. When she crashes, I want everything documented. But in the control tower, Colonel James Mitchell, commander of air operations and a 30-year veteran, watched through binoculars in disbelief. Sergeant Rodriguez, he called. Are you seeing this? Yes, sir. Pre-flight procedures executed with absolute precision. Perfect positioning on the runway. This isn't an amateur. Mitchell lowered his binoculars. Rodriguez, how many years have you served? 22, sir. I've been in 30. And in all that time, I've seen only one person with that kind of precision. He paused as realization dawned. Phoenix Williams. Rodriguez stiffened. Sir, Phoenix was declared dead 8 years ago. Traitorous officer sold information. Innocent officer, Mitchell corrected firmly. I was on the investigation committee. The documents were so poorly forged a child could see through them. But Morrison had political connections, and Phoenix was a black woman with no one to defend her. On the track, Kesha's movements were smooth and confident. Through the glass, she could see Thompson shouting in panic, surrounded by a growing crowd. Sergeant Rodriguez, Mitchell said sharply. Open a secure channel between me and that pilot, now. But sir, Thompson said she's just... Thompson is a privileged fool who couldn't recognize real skill if it bit him. Mitchell cut him off. Do as I said. The secure channel opened with a click. Unidentified pilot, Mitchell said into the mic. This is Colonel Mitchell, Control Tower. Identify yourself properly. There was a long pause before the reply came, her voice laden with contained emotion. Colonel Mitchell, is that really you? Phoenix? Mitchell whispered, his voice breaking. Jesus Christ, is that you? Kesha Davis, sir. Level 2 janitor. Phoenix Williams died 8 years ago, she replied, though tears trembled in her voice. Mitchell closed his eyes, remembering the bright young captain who had been destroyed by corrupt men. Phoenix, I tried to help you. By the time I discovered the truth about Morrison and the conspiracy, it was too late. You had disappeared. I know, sir. General Morrison is dead, but his legacy lives on, Kesha said, looking directly at Thompson through the cockpit glass. His son married Colonel Thompson Sr.'s daughter. Our arrogant captain down there is the grandson of one of the men who destroyed my career. The revelation hit Mitchell like a punch in the stomach. Thompson is family of the conspiracy that framed you? Third generation of military privilege built on my ruin, Kesha confirmed. For 8 years I cleaned the toilets he dirtied, listened to his racist jokes, endured his arrogance. He never knew the black cleaning lady was the pilot his ancestors destroyed. Mitchell watched from the control tower as Thompson shouted orders no one followed, his authority evaporating by the second. Phoenix, do you have evidence of the original conspiracy? 8 years of gathering, she said firmly. Morrison confessed everything on his deathbed to a priest, thinking he was protected by the confessional. The priest recorded everything and gave me the confession 3 years ago. I have names, dates, offshore bank accounts, forged documents, everything. Why didn't this come to light sooner? Mitchell asked quietly. Because I wanted more than justice, Colonel, Kesha said, her gaze cold and steady. I wanted them to destroy themselves with their own arrogance. She watched Thompson having a nervous breakdown on the runway. Men like him only learn when they are humiliated publicly. Foster continued recording, now broadcasting live to social media where the video was racking up thousands of views. Comments flooded in. Who is this woman? She flies better than any pilot I've ever seen. That officer looks terrified. This is history being made. Mitchell made a decision that would change everything. Phoenix, do you still remember how to perform an Alpha-class aerial demonstration? Like it was yesterday, sir. Then show those sons of privilege what a real pilot can do. You have full clearance for an unrestricted aerial demonstration. Clear your name the only way that matters, by proving they never deserve to breathe the same air as you. Kesha felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope mixed with purpose. Roger that, Tower. Griffin 07 requesting clearance for full air show. Clearance granted. Phoenix, show them what it means to fly with honor. On the runway, Thompson realized he had lost control completely. His cruel prank had become something much larger, and he finally understood he had catastrophically underestimated the woman he mocked for years. The sound of the F-16's engines changed pitch, signaling readiness for takeoff. Thompson looked up at the blue sky and, for the first time in his privileged life, felt true fear. Kesha positioned the aircraft at the end of the runway, 8 years of silent endurance turning into unshakable resolve. She was no longer a janitor. She was resurrecting Captain Phoenix Williams from the grave, where cowardly men had buried her. What Thompson didn't know was that he wasn't about to see an air show. He was about to witness the rebirth of a legend, and his own downfall would fuel her rise. Griffin 7. You are cleared for unrestricted aerial demonstration. Show them what it means to fly with honor. Mitchell's voice echoed in her headset like a blessing. The F-16 roared down the runway with an acceleration so fierce that spectators instinctively stepped back. In 3 seconds, Kesha was airborne. In 5, she executed a vertical climb that defied gravity itself. What followed wasn't just a flight. It was art written across the sky. Thompson watched from below, his face draining of color as realization struck. That's impossible, he muttered, watching the F-16 perform maneuvers that only the most elite pilots could execute. A cleaning lady can't fly like that. Captain Thompson, Foster said, still streaming. The video already has 50,000 live viewers. Everyone's asking who she is. At 1,500 meters, Kesha performed a Pugachev's Cobra, a maneuver so advanced that even seasoned pilots struggled to perfect it. The jet halted mid-air, nose lifting 90 degrees before smoothly leveling again. The crowd gasped. Veteran mechanics began applauding. My God, whispered an air traffic controller. I've seen that maneuver once before, 8 years ago by the legendary Phoenix Williams. Thompson grabbed the radio, hands shaking. Davis, come down immediately. That's a direct order. The reply came calm and firm, laced with 8 years of suppressed dignity. Negative, Captain. You wanted an educational demonstration. That's exactly what you're getting. What followed over the next 10 minutes redefined aerial mastery. Kesha executed impossible loops, inverted spins, low-level flyovers that sent dust swirling and hearts racing. She ended her performance by tracing the word Phoenix across the sky in vapor trails. Foster's voice trembled as he narrated to an audience that had now surpassed 100,000 viewers. Folks, I don't know who this woman is, but she's rewriting aviation history right before our eyes. In the control tower, Colonel Mitchell smiled for the first time in years and activated the base's open broadcast channel. Attention!